To start, I want to tell you about how when I was getting ready to move out to Utah, I was dead set on taking all of my childhood toys with me. When I was in college, I lived in my parents' basement in order to save money. So in moving to Utah for my first job, this was also the first time I moved out of my parents' house. I felt an essential obligation to, in moving out of my parents' house, move everything out. I didn't want to leave anything behind that they would be responsible for. In particular, I didn't want to leave my childhood toys behind. I know that I was a grown adult. I was getting ready to start my journey into the bigger world, and as the kids used to say, start adulting. But I didn't want to leave my toys behind. I just didn't want to have that as a burden or clutter that my parents had to deal with. I wanted to leave an empty room other than a bed and a dresser. Naturally, this would come at the expense of me needing to get a trailer that was large enough to take not only the possessions that were practical, but the ones that were more or less keepsakes from my childhood. And this added expense, this added space is something that might not align with frugality, but my intent was still there to get the stuff away from my parents. And if I was moving away, I had nowhere else to take it unless I got a storage unit, and that wasn't in the cards for me. The condo in which I was moving to, space was limited. It had a number of closets, and I figured I could put the toys, just leave them in boxes and put them in the closet. I did want to save these things so that when I had a child down the road, I could give him my childhood toys and he could treasure them the way that I did when I was little. I had basically made up my mind on this goal. I was going to move all the toys to Utah, but my girlfriend didn't agree with this idea. She thought that it wasn't a frugal idea to move all the toys to Utah just because eventually I would move back closer to family in the future. So why move all the toys out to Utah if I'm just going to move them back? It would be cheaper to leave them with my parents, and then after I move closer, relocate the toys then. Another great point that she had was the storage space in the condo was going to be limited. And if I had the toys there might be something that I needed to have in the closets. There might be something else that was practical, something that was useful for my adult life that I wouldn't have room for just because I had the closet full of toys. These points were incredibly valid. Now, it comes down to the fact, though, that Amanda and I weren't married yet. We were simply dating. So because of that point, she didn't get the final say. It was interesting making the final negotiations. She was pretty sure that it was a bad idea to move the toys. And I said, I'm going to move the toys if there's room in the trailer. She didn't think there was going to be space to put them all, as I only had a small SUV and a small U-Haul trailer. But I managed to get everything in there and then have ample room to put the toys, to my surprise and hers. So the toys did get moved out to Utah. Oliver was born in Utah before we moved back to Kansas City. Now, we really probably would have gone about discussing the matter of moving the toys differently had we been married at that point and not just dating. The nature of marriage means that both spouses get a vote. When you're dating, that's not necessarily the case when it comes to an individual's decisions and what they do with their stuff. I want you to keep this in mind as we move through the main topic later in the episode.